And last week we talked money with Leslie McCormick of the Farwell Group, author of Bank on Yourself. And she basically talked about the life vest, but not a life vest for a boat, a life vest for your finances, so that you could be prepared and really enjoy sailing through life. And this morning, Darren's back with us, so I'm curious to see what I'm going to learn from you today, Darren.
Well, I really like that concept of that life vest that Leslie was talking about, and she's talking about how what a good idea it is to be prepared. But sometimes people aren't prepared, and because you get this reaction often, well, that won't happen to me. And I think that's something we need to be a little bit careful of. As our regular From a Woman's Perspective listeners will know, myself, Leslie, and our team, the Farwell Group, help widows who have lost their spouse navigate their journey forward using an approach we designed with their unique needs in mind. In fact, helping widows find their own confidence in their financial health and the tax-efficient transfer of wealth to their beneficiaries is something we like to do, and it's what we do best. And what we hear time and time again is widows advising women who are married to take a bigger role in understanding and managing their household finances. But despite the warnings, research is clearly indicating that many married women are actually taking a lesser role in managing household finances. And in a surprising, somewhat counterintuitive twist, research further indicates that millennials are the most willing to leave investing and financial planning decisions to their husbands. Now, let me clarify. It is a fact that many married women handle the bill paying and do the day-to-day expenses, but manage a checkbook, by the way, which is certainly a critical, often complex, and certainly a highly valued task. But managing a checkbook is not the same as investing. It's not the same as managing household investments or managing the household finances. And not managing investments properly, not looking after crossing the T's and dotting the I's for overall household finances can have a dramatic long-term impact on a widow's lifestyle. Here are some numbers that I thought would be interesting. 56% of married women defer to a spouse on investment and financial planning. And only 18% of those who abdicate this responsibility are very concerned about managing finances if something happens to their marriage or their spouse. It's kind of that "it won't happen to me" attitude. Yet women who have been through it are shouting out, "Don't do that. Get involved. Take action." Now, that doesn't mean all of a sudden becoming some sort of financial expert or reading textbooks or taking courses. It's really just a matter of taking the action to understand the big picture and very often finding a professional, trusted advisor to work with.
Well, it reminds me of my mom and driving. My dad was the driver. I learned how to drive very early. My mom went to get her lessons, was driving, and I discouraged her from getting her license. I said, "Mom, I'll drive you everywhere. If Dad doesn't have time, I will take you." And years later, when my dad, may he rest in peace, wasn't well, and my mother could have been the driver, she couldn't drive and she didn't have her license. And so you do need to know that things do happen and life changes. I was very naive and I didn't have a long-term picture. But asking that question and taking a role and learning how to drive, even if you're the passenger most of the time, it's good to know that if you're going on a long trip, you can step in. Or if something happens, you can step in. And I guess that's the same with financing. So thanks for bringing that thought to my mind.
Well, and some of these finances topics seem daunting when you talk about them, but when you actually get to learn the concept, it's really not that complicated. I was driving with my daughter just last weekend, and we started talking about marginal tax rate and average tax rates because she's earning a paycheck. And one day she said, "I can't believe how much money I'm not getting from my paycheck." So we went through the tax rates, and while she was never very good at math, never liked math, she was devouring the information as we were talking about tax rates.
And
So
she's-
sometimes you find something that's interesting you didn't know was interesting, and that just getting involved can make a big difference.
Well, she's blessed to have you as a dad, and those terms wouldn't have come out of my dad's mouth, but they come out of yours, and now she's armed with something for her financial responsibility. So you're suggesting that women take a role, even if it's not an actual strong role while their husbands are alive, just to be able to know what to do in the event that they need to do it.
Well, a thing as simple as very often when I do annual reviews for clients, it's only the husband that shows up. On occasion, it is only the wife that shows up, but quite often it's only the husband that shows up. And I encourage the husband and the wife to show up. So only, as I said, not necessarily becoming an expert, but understanding what the picture is. And then just by being there, questions will come up, and then you'll get the answer to those questions. So getting involved, I think, is the big thing that we would like to talk about today. Make sure you don't abdicate all that responsibility to someone else, because you never know what's going to happen. And certainly we don't want to be left in the situation where many are, where lots of stuff happens by surprise.
Well, I think over the years, you don't know what you don't know. I always attribute it to you. You attribute it to me. But if you're sitting there and you don't know enough about your investments and finances, and God bless your husband or whoever's doing the investing, it's good to know so that if you have to drive, you'll be able to take over the wheel and do it confidently. And Darren, you offer a complimentary consultation, no obligation. So a team, a husband and wife, can come in and sit down with you and sort of see what's going on and get that information from you. Am I correct?
Absolutely true. I have actually a client had sent something, a woman, to speak to me just a couple of weeks ago because her husband had passed away, and when he had passed away, she didn't know that potentially your joint credit card could be frozen.
Oh.
And it was. And she didn't know that potentially joint accounts can be frozen. And they were. So what she found was she had really very little access to money. And that's just because she didn't know. And had she attended some of the meetings, I think she probably would have had more tools to understand what could happen when sort of the unforeseen does happen.
So if you want to be empowered with your finances and have someone help you navigate through it and learn, so that you don't have to be the designated driver. You can be the passenger and know that you can take over when necessary. You can call Darren. Darren, are you going to the office today?
I am, yes.
Even in that Hawaiian shirt?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So you can reach Darren at 416-863-7501. That's 416-863-7501. Ask your questions, get the education, and then be confident that you're prepared with what for life and what it dishes out. Darren and his team are there, and I think you'll be empowered once you've spoken to him. Thank you, Darren.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Marilyn.
It's a pleasure to have you. I always learn, and you always make my mind work, and I think that's really good. Thank you.